Are you migrating abroad with an immigrant visa? Then you are required to register with the Commission on Filipinos Overseas. The Commission on Filipinos Overseas, or CFO, was established on June 16, 1980 through Batas Pambansa 79. The CFO is an agency of the Philippine government under the Office of the President and is tasked to promote and uphold the interests, rights, and welfare of overseas Filipinos and strengthen their ties with the motherland. The following are the CFO's clientele: the Filipino permanent migrants or permanent residents abroad, Filipino overseas who have become naturalized citizens of other countries or dual citizens, Filipino spouses and other partners of foreign nationals leaving the country, the descendant of Filipino overseas, Filipino youth overseas, exchange visitor program participants, and the Filipino au pair participants. Last March 25 of 2020, the Commission on Filipinos Overseas launched its innovative project called Overseas Filipinos CFO Online Registration System, or normally known as OFCOURS. In compliance with the Republic Act No. 11469 or the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act, and as recommended by the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases to protect both the public and its personnel while COVID-19 pandemic is still not contained. Through the OFCOURS, the CFO client can forego the physical registration at the CFO office to avail CFO frontline services. Just visit the CFO's official website at www.cfo.gov.ph and select the appropriate online registration system. You may select the OFCOURS Blue Poster if you are a first-time registrant for the Guidance and Counseling Program, or GCP. The GCP is a mandatory pre-departure counseling requirement for Filipino citizens who are spouses or partners of foreign nationals, in compliance to the Republic Act No. 10906 or the Anti-Mail Order Spouse Act of 2006 and the Republic Act No. 10364 or the expanded Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act of 2012. Under the CFO New Normal Procedure, the GCP is being conducted now via teleconferencing. On the other hand, you may select the OFCOURS Pink Poster if you are an immigrant visa holder or a Filipino spouse or partner of a foreign national, or a Filipino spouse or partner of a former Filipino with a visa and a CFO Guidance and Counseling Certificate. And lastly, select the OFCOURS Red Poster if you are a Filipino au pair bound for Europe. Please be informed that the au pair registration is available every Wednesday and Thursday only. After satisfactorily completing and submitting the necessary travel documents online, you will be issued an OFCOURS temporary certificate, which serves as a proof of your registration with the CFO. In addition, the original CFO documents will also be sent to your registered address via courier. These documents are duly recognized by the Department of Foreign Affairs and the Philippine Bureau of Immigration as valid travel documents. For inquiries, you may send your message at facebook.com/Commission on Filipinos Overseas or email us at info@cfo.gov.ph.
Hey there, kababayan! Did you know that half of our population has a relative that lives or works abroad? Currently, there are 10.5 million Filipinos across 200 countries and territories. This is the Filipino diaspora. Diaspora means people living and working away from their home country, but still closely connected to their countries of origin. The Commission on Filipinos Overseas is a government agency tasked to strengthen the ties of overseas Filipinos with the motherland. Thus, we have created the Balikbayan, Overseas Filipinos One-Stop Online Portal for Diaspora Engagement. The term Balikbayan is a play on the internet connotation link and Filipino word Balikbayan, meaning returning migrants. It was designed to bring government services for overseas Filipinos in one place, offering an integrated and unique platform to re-engage with the Philippines. The Balikbayan website has 3 features. explore business and investment opportunities in the country through the Start a Business feature. This contains, among others, an entrepreneurial test to assess one's business acumen, a guide in identifying and planning a business, business registration procedures and requirements in the Philippines. Philanthropic initiatives that will benefit Filipinos in need are available at the Donate and Volunteer section. This part is linked to the CFO's Lingkod sa Kapwa Pilipino program, a mechanism that has supported the development initiatives of overseas Filipino donors for decades. Lastly, overseas Filipinos using Balikbayan can access services of national government agencies online, such as the Social Security System, Pag-ibig Fund, and PhilHealth. For this project, CFO has partnered with more than 20 local government units to mainstream migration and development at the local level. Through Balikbayan, we hope to encourage overseas Filipinos to be the country's development partners. Visit our website at www.balikbayan.gov.ph to learn more about this project. Or contact us through the following. Mga kababayan, magbalikbayanihan tayo!
Mabuhay at magandang araw sa ating mga kababayan sa Estados Unidos. We at the Commission on Filipinos Overseas are inviting to join us in our online ugnayan via Zoom and Facebook Live on October 22, 2020 at 8 o'clock p.m. United States time. This is a part of a series of webinars and virtual consultations organized by the CFO in order to strengthen our ties and link with Filipino communities abroad. For the past several decades, the United States has been the number one, the favorite destination of Filipino immigrants. And last year, we conducted an ugnayan in Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and San Diego, and it was a very fulfilling and satisfying activity. So much so that we have decided to make it a regular one. So we decided to have another follow-up ugnayan this year. But because of the limitations imposed by the worldwide pandemic caused by COVID-19, the ugnayan will have to be virtual. We have invited community leaders, Filipino community leaders, Gawad Pangulo awardees, and experts to speak about the issues and concerns posed by the pandemic in the United States. We will also talk about the pandemic and its effect in the Philippines and how our people are coping with it. Our online ugnayan is open to the public and you may pre-register in our official Facebook page. We all really hope that you will join us, and we're looking forward to a very exciting, rich, and fulfilling interaction and discussion. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay po kayo, and may our good Lord bless you always.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for joining us for Usapang Stateside at iba pa. My name is Alan and I'm your host for today. If you are soon be migrating to the United States or want to know how to settle permanently in the US, well, this webinar is for you. By the way, if you have messages or questions, please send them to our Facebook chat box and we will read them later. Actually, we have one right now. Says here, good morning from Sartabal Filler. And another one, Pope Daison, he says, good morning. Good morning to you. Ria Luz, mabuhay po kayo, Secretary Francisco Acosta and all of your team. Thank you. Another one from Karen Marie, good morning. Good morning to you too. And from Ria Luz, buhay-buhay sa Amerika is looking forward to seeing you in America once pandemic is over. We'll hope to see you soon. And as of the moment, checking our Facebook Live viewers, we have, if I'm not mistaken, we have 86 viewers right now. Please let us check. Okay, it's now 123 viewers as of this moment. Well, very nice, no? We are inviting more to watch us, and you will not regret it, I'm sure. As you are about to embark on your journey across borders and across cultures and across national identities, this journey is bound to change your life and that of your family. Whatever your motivation are, adequate preparation will increase your chances of seamless transition to your new life in the United States and will greatly contribute to the achievement of your migration goals. The Commission on Filipinos Overseas, or CFO, having a long history of supporting Filipino settling abroad, has prepared this webinar for you, which hopefully will help you adapt in your new life in the US. This is actually our second series of PIDOS webinars, where we actually feature practical information that migrants will be needing as they migrate permanently overseas. I hope that you are as excited as I am today for this webinar. I will be joined by my co-host from CFO Davao, with Miss Celine Del Monte. Hi, Celine.
Hello.
You
Hello.
look
Good
lovely today.
morning. Thank
Yes, good
you.
morning.
You look good too.
Yes, and we are going to hear real stories from real people who have settled and become successful in migrants in the U.S. But before their successful stories or integration to the American life begin, they were just like you. They have so many questions about how life will be in the U.S. Later in the program, we will be hearing their stories, and I'm sure you will learn a lot from them. By the way, in this webinar, we will be giving electronic copies of our handbook. The handbook is handbook migrating to the handbook for Filipinos migrating to the United States of America. If you want to have a free electronic copy of this handbook, as seen on the screen, please stay with us until the end of this webinar. We will tell you later how to get this. But for now, we will first listen to our guest speaker, Attorney Christopher Lapinig, who lives in California, and he will give us some update about how America is doing. Topics covered in his discussion are updates on COVID-19 pandemic in the US, the public charge rule, the Black Lives Matter movement, and the 2020 US presidential election. Let me introduce briefly our guest speaker. Christopher Lapinig is a Christopher Lapinig is an attorney based in Los Angeles, California. He previously served as a Scanlon Fellow at Asian American Advancing Justice, Los Angeles, where he worked with Filipino victims and survivors of human trafficking. Born and raised in Queens, New York, Chris previously served as a law clerk to the Honorable Denny Chin of the Second Circuit. He was also the first Filipino American clerk to the Honorable Lorna G. Schofield of the Southern District of New York, the first federal Article III judge of Filipino descent in United States history. Chris was also a Fulbright research scholar in the Philippines, where he studied the call center industry. Attorney Chris graduated summa cum laude from Yale College and obtained his Juris Doctor degree from Yale Law School. Welcome. Let's all welcome Attorney Lapinig. Good evening, sir.
Thank you very much. Hi again. My name is
you may
Chris.
not-
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, no problem. So again, my name is Chris Lapinig. I am an attorney based in Los Angeles. And CFO asked me to do a brief presentation on the current state of affairs in the United States. So today I'll be talking about 1, COVID-19 generally in the US, 2, what to do if you think you've been exposed to COVID-19, 3, the recent civil rights protests in this country, and 4, the upcoming elections. And then I think I'll also have some time to answer some questions. So first, COVID-19 generally in the US. So in the US, the number of infections has risen dramatically since the first week of March, and the US now has more confirmed cases than any other country in the world. All 50 states have been affected, with New York reporting the highest number of deaths, and California, Texas, and Florida the highest number of cases in the US. It's also important to note that these are the 4 biggest states in the US, in the country. Here's a different way of looking at the COVID-19 pandemic in the US. It shows the number of COVID-19 cases per capita across the country. And you can see here the darker colors are largely concentrated in the Southeast, which has higher per capita incidences of COVID-19. In terms of the government response to COVID-19, on March 13th, 2020, President Trump declared a national emergency connected to the pandemic. However, the federal response overall to the pandemic has been otherwise pretty slow and uncoordinated, especially in terms of preparing the healthcare system, testing for the virus, and other precautions. State and local responses have included the closure of schools and non-essential businesses, prohibitions and cancellation of large-scale gatherings such as festivals and sporting events, and stay-at-home orders. It's interesting to note that there have been partisan differences in responses to the virus. So generally, democratically controlled states and jurisdictions have been more aggressive at lockdown measures. On the other hand, Republican-controlled states and jurisdictions have been more opposed to lockdown measures and have chosen to open up their economies sooner, regardless of their COVID-19 status. There's a Stanford University study that indicates that 42% of the US labor force now works from home full-time. Just want to talk briefly about racial disparities related to COVID-19. It's been reported that Black and Latino populations in the US have a disproportionate percentage of COVID-19 cases. And there's also been reports of racist and xenophobic attacks on Asian Americans, including Filipinos, connected to COVID-19. Unfortunately, there are also reports that a disproportionate percentage of COVID-19 cases occurs in the Filipino population in the US. In California, for example, among Asian Americans, Filipino Americans make up 35% of COVID-19 cases. Filipinos tend to be at higher risk in part because many of us work in healthcare and caregiving. In California, for example, Filipinos are a fifth of all registered nurses. So next, how has COVID-19 affected the US economically? The pandemic has led to a recession in the US, as it has in many other parts of the world. Real GDP was forecast to fall at a rate of 38% approximately in the second quarter of 2020, and the unemployment rate rose to 14.7% in April 2020. All of this, the economic impact of COVID-19 and mass unemployment has led to fears of mass evictions. And an analysis by the Aspen Institute indicates that 30 to 40 million Americans are at risk for eviction by the end of 2020. And according to a report by Yelp, about 60% of businesses in the US that have closed since the start of the pandemic are going to stay shut permanently. So next, what should you do if you think you've been exposed to COVID-19 in the United States? So first and foremost, as much as possible, you should stay at home and isolate yourself from others. You should, of course, seek testing and treatment. In the US, it really matters if you have health insurance or not. So if you have health insurance, your health insurance likely will cover the cost of testing. So you should call your doctor's office and inform them of your symptoms, and the doctor's office will instruct you on what to do next. If you don't have health insurance, you should call your local public health department and inform them of your symptoms. Your public health department may offer COVID-19 testing. If you're unable to reach your local public health department, call a local community health clinic or your local hospital to see if they offer testing. You should be able to access testing and treatment services regardless of your immigration status. And COVID-19 testing and treatment does not count towards the public charge rule, which I'm going to discuss further in detail later. So next, let me talk about employment protections. What protections are available for you at your job related to COVID-19? Many people in the US are protected by law from termination if they or a family member contract COVID-19. The Federal Family and Medical Leave Act, FMLA, allows a qualified employee to take up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave within a 12-month period if they or an immediate family member requires care for a serious health condition. So that includes COVID-19. The law also entitles a qualified employee to continued health insurance benefits and requires an employer to offer them the same or equivalent position when they return. Qualified employees are those who have worked for at least 1 year, over 1,250 hours in the prior year, and whose employer has at least 50 employees in a 75-mile radius. State and local laws may provide greater protections for employees. Federal law entitles Americans working for private employers with fewer than 500 employees to paid sick and or family leave related to COVID-19 in certain circumstances. The Families First Coronavirus Response Act, the FFCRA, allows employees who work for employers of less than 500 employees to take up to 80 hours of emergency sick leave. An employee may take emergency sick leave under the FFCRA if they are 1, subject to a quarantine or isolation order, or caring for someone who is subject to a quarantine or self-isolation order. 2, advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine due to coronavirus concerns or caring for someone who is advised to self-quarantine. 3, experiencing symptoms of coronavirus and are seeking a medical diagnosis. 4, caring for their child if because of coronavirus protections, their school or daycare has been closed or their childcare provider is unavailable. Or 5, experiencing similar conditions specified by the Secretary of Health and Human Services. And then again, state and local law may give you expanded rights to paid leave. So next, I'll talk about the public charge rule, which is an important new development in immigration law. Public charge is in immigration law a ground of inadmissibility. Grounds of inadmissibility are reasons that a person could be denied a green card, visa, or admission into the US. In deciding whether to grant some applicants a green card or visa, an immigration officer must decide whether that person is likely to become dependent on certain government benefits in the future, which would make them a public charge. It's not a test that applies to everyone, not even to all those applying for green cards. This law mainly impacts those seeking permanent resident status through family member petitions. Public charge laws do not apply in the naturalization process through which lawful permanent residents apply to become US citizens. In 2019, the Trump administration published a new rule that significantly expanded the types of individuals that could be deemed a public charge and therefore could be denied admission into the US. Under the new rule, the term public charge refers to someone who uses more than 12 months in aggregate of public benefits over a three-year period of time. With this new definition, an officer making a decision in a case is tasked with deciding whether it's more likely than not in the future the person will face a 3-year period of time in which they will need more than 12 months of public benefits. The officer considers each public benefit such that if a person uses 2 public benefits in 1 month under this test, that would count as 2 months use of public benefits. So public benefits under this new rule are now defined to include the following: cash assistance for income maintenance, supplemental security income, temporary assistance for needy families, state and local cash assistance programs, federally funded Medicaid, supplemental nutrition assistance program, formerly known as food stamps, and Section 8 housing assistance and federally subsidized housing. Receiving any of these benefits does not automatically make an individual a public charge. Multiple factors are considered when making a determination whether a person is to become a public charge. An officer will consider a totality of circumstances in a person's case, such as household income, employment, whether they are working, assets, family size, education level, English speaking ability, health and health insurance, among others. The USCIS has stated that it will not consider testing, treatment, or preventative care related to COVID-19 toward the public charge rule, even if those services are covered by Medicaid. Services provided by your local public health department also do not count toward the public charge rule. So next, I was asked to speak a little bit about the civil rights protests that have been taking place in the US since May. This wave of protests began on May 26, 2020, in response to the killing of a 46-year-old Black man named George Floyd during an arrest by the Minneapolis Police Department. In a video circulated online, a Minneapolis police officer was seen kneeling on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes while Mr. Floyd complained that he couldn't breathe and cried out in pain for his mother. These protests were largely organized on social media by a movement called Black Lives Matter. BLM, as it's called in short, is a decentralized social movement that advocates for nonviolent civil disobedience and protests against incidents of police brutality and all racially motivated violence against Black people. The protests spread to over 2,000 cities and towns in over 60 countries, and it's estimated that 15 to 26 million people participated in these protests, making it the largest protest movement in US history. The protests have mostly been peaceful, but there have been some incidents of rioting, looting, and street skirmishes with the police. In response to the protests, at least 200 cities in the US imposed curfews by early June. Unfortunately, there have been widespread reports of incidents of police brutality in response to the protests by local police and the National Guard. The protests have generally subsided, but they may reemerge in the event that there are more incidents of police violence. Here's a map of Black Lives Matter protests that have taken place around the world. The last thing that I'll discuss are the upcoming elections. There are numerous elections that are taking place this year, but the biggest one, of course, is the presidential election, which takes place every 4 years. As you know, the incumbent president and vice president are Republicans Donald Trump and Mike Pence. Running against them are Democrats Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. As you know, Biden was vice president under President Barack Obama. Kamala Harris is a senator from California, and she's the first Black and Asian American woman to be on a major party's presidential ticket. Important for all of you to note is that immigration and citizenship laws likely will change depending on who wins the election. As you can guess from the public charge rule, the Trump administration has largely been making rules and taking actions that make immigration and naturalization more difficult. If Biden and Harris win, it is likely that many of those rules and actions will be undone and that their administration will be more pro-immigrant. November 3rd is election day, but early voting and voting by mail has already begun in many states. So that's it for my presentation. So now I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Well, thank you, Attorney Lapinig, for that very informative update. We encourage our FB Live audience or viewers to ask questions. If you have to ask questions to Attorney Lapinig. But I also have a question for you, sir.
Yes.
If you don't mind. You mentioned in your presentation a while ago, several states like California, Texas, Florida, and New York with the highest number of COVID-19 cases, and New York with the highest New York was also included in the list of states with highest number of COVID-19 related deaths. I'm just curious why those states, and are there any lapses on the implementation of health protocols in those states? And as a follow-up question, sir, what advice can you give to our Filipino kababayan in those states?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned earlier, it's important to note that those 4 states are the largest states in the country. And so it's almost natural that they would have the largest number of cases of COVID-19. So I think it's more important to sort of note per capita how many cases a state or jurisdiction has in terms of COVID-19. And I'm not a public health expert, and so I shouldn't. It's not my place to sort of criticize or critique the sort of implementation of public health measures in various parts of the country. But I would just say, look to the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, and your local public health department for advice on how you should conduct yourselves and how you should, prevent yourself from contracting COVID-19, and also what to do if you get COVID-19.
Yes, okay, that's true. Thank you, Attorney. And on my second question, you discussed about the issue on public charge. No, on the issue on the public charge test, does it apply to all immigrants? And how about those immigrants applying for their green cards? Will the implementation of this new rule on public charge affect their application?
That's a great question. And so it does not apply to all immigrants, but it does apply to immigrants who are applying for their green cards. There's an important distinction, though. So this public charge rule has been subject to a lot of litigation in the US, and there's currently an injunction in place that prevents the Department of State from implementing the public charge rule in consulates and embassies overseas. And so if you're overseas, if you're in the Philippines right now, for example, the public charge rule does not apply when you're going in to apply for your visa or green card at the US Embassy in Manila, for example. It does apply to folks who are applying for adjustment of status, applying for a green card. They're transitioning from a non-immigrant status, such as tourist visa or something, to a green card in the US. But overall, it's a very complicated issue. And so if you're having concerns about the public charge rule, I would encourage you to consult an immigration lawyer.
Okay, that's a good advice. Again, I am checking with our Facebook Live chat box, and we didn't receive any question from our viewers. So again, thank you very much, Attorney Lapinig, for joining us. And this ends our one-on-one interview with Attorney Lapinig. For Facebook viewers, yes, thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us. And for our Facebook viewers, please stay with us. We still have more in store for you. So stay tuned, and we will just pause for a short infomercial break. Are you migrating abroad with an immigrant visa? Then you are required to register with the Commission on Filipinos Overseas. The Commission on Filipinos Overseas, or CFO, was established on June 16, 1980 through Batas Pambansa 79. The CFO is an agency of the Philippine government under the Office of the President and is tasked to promote and uphold the interests, rights, and welfare of overseas Filipinos and strengthen their ties with the motherland. The following are the CFO's clientele: the Filipino permanent migrants or permanent residents abroad, Filipino overseas who have become naturalized citizens of other countries or dual citizens, Filipino spouses and other partners of foreign nationals leaving the country, the descendant of Filipino overseas, Filipino youth overseas, exchange visitor program participants, and the Filipino au pair participants. Last March 25 of 2020, the Commission on Filipinos Overseas launched its innovative project called Overseas Filipinos CFO Online Registration System, or normally known as OFCOURSE. In compliance with the Republic Act No. 11469, or the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act, and as recommended by the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases to protect both the public and its personnel while COVID-19 pandemic is still not contained. Through the OFCOURSE, the CFO client can forego the physical registration at the CFO office to avail CFO frontline services. Just visit the CFO's official website at www.cfo.gov.ph and select the appropriate online registration system. You may select the OFCOURSE Blue Poster if you are a first-time registrant for the Guidance and Counseling Program, or GCP. The GCP is a mandatory pre-departure counseling requirement for Filipino citizens who are spouses or partners of foreign nationals, in compliance to the Republic Act No. 10906 or the Anti-Mail Order Spouse Act of 2006, and the Republic Act number 10364 or the expanded Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act of 2012. Under the CFO New Normal Procedure, the GCP is being conducted now via teleconferencing. On the other hand, you may select the, of course, pink poster if you are an immigrant visa holder or a Filipino spouse or partner of a foreign national or a Filipino spouse or partner of a former Filipino with a visa and a CFO guidance and counseling certificate. And lastly, select the, of course, red poster if you are a Filipino au pair bound for Europe. Please be informed that the au pair registration is available every Wednesday and Thursday only. After satisfactorily completing and submitting the necessary travel documents online, you will be issued an, of course, temporary certificate, which serves as a proof of your registration with the CFO. In addition, the original CFO documents will also be sent to your registered address via courier. These documents are duly recognized by the Department of Foreign Affairs and the Philippine Bureau of Immigration as valid travel documents. For inquiries, you may send your message at facebook.com/Commission on Filipinos Overseas or email us at info@cfo.gov.ph. Good morning! Welcome again to Usapang Stateside at iba pa. Well, this time we'll be talking about Buhay Pinoy sa Amerika Part 1, the honeymoon stage. What does it mean? When you live abroad, transitioning to a new environment that is more often than not completely different from your own. Generally, newcomers are trying to adapt to the new surroundings, struggles with culture shock, and other socially related issues. However, this is normal, and it's part of your cultural adaptation. It has 3 stages. The first stage is the honeymoon stage, the second stage is the adjustment stage, and the last stage is the adaptation. Under the honeymoon stage or tourist stage, there is an anticipation of new opportunities, and they are constantly pleased by the things you encountered. To have a better understanding on this topic, let me introduce our first guest for this segment. She's a Filipino-American writer and an author or the author of the inspirational book, What We Know for Sure. After receiving a bachelor's degree in English from the University of Batangas, she headed to Manila and began her career with the U.S. Refugee Program. From there, she spent the next 18 years working for the American Embassy. While working at the embassy, she fostered her love for writing. She became a freelance writer for an online company or an online news company called All Voices. In 2012, she migrated to the United States, where she continued her writing for CNN Report as a citizens journalist. She currently resides in New York, where she remains dedicated to her writing and her love of travel and people. We now welcome Miss Leah Ocampo. Good evening, Leah.
Good evening dito sa New York. Magandang umaga naman dyan sa Pilipinas. Thank you for inviting me to be one of your guest speakers for this morning. Good morning sa lahat po na nanonood at nakikinig sa atin today or this morning. First, I would like to congratulate everyone for this milestone of getting your immigrant visa. We know that this is not just an opportunity or a big opportunity na hindi lahat ng tao ay nagkakaroon. We do know too na this is a choice, katulad ng previous tagline ng CFO, migration is a choice. You have made the right choice and you have made the right decision. So are you ready? As you know, immigration or immigrating to the US is a life-changing experience. Are you ready for the work and sacrifice involved sa pagpunta sa Amerika? Some of you are ready. Well, that's good. But those who are not, we are here to give you some advice. So how do you get ready? Well, start early and stay focused. We'll create a list of things to do and prioritize. For example, if you plan to sell your house or your car or your other properties, prioritize that. Okay? Second, prepare yourself mentally and emotionally. How do you do that? Research the life guides dun sa pupuntahan nyo. In this way, at least if you know those things in advance, like housing, the cost of rental, education.
Well, thank you for that, Miss Leah. All right. And joining Miss Leah Ocampo on this segment is a Filipino couple. At first, this couple did not plan on migrating to the US, but when opportunity knocked on their door, they decided to become permanent residents in the US. In 2001, they immigrated to the US and both are currently working as accountants. Let us also welcome Mr. and Mrs. Ernie and Sally Del Monte. Magandang gabi po sa inyo sa California.
Hi, magandang gabi, Alan, and sa inyo lahat.
All right. So at this moment, like Miss Tia said, maybe some of our viewers have already received their immigrant visas and preparing to go to the US. Now, what advice can you give them on what to do first? And for my follow-up question, is it important to set goals and expectation before coming to the US? I think Miss Leah would like to continue.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
It's okay. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know we have a short time. So, yung expectations po natin, we have to prepare for unexpected. And as you know, we have relatives and friends in the US who are willing to help us. But sometimes things doesn't happen. The last minute things change. So be ready for that and expect for the unexpected. So work hard. Create attainable goals, work hard, and focus and have faith. So yun lang muna. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Miss Leah. How about Miss Sally? How about you, Sally?
Oh, hi, yes. Depending on where you are in the planning stage and when you plan to come here, this is the time to get everything in motion. So if you have a list, this is the time you have to check off all of those things in your list because you are leaving, and it will help you, get the stress out of your travel. And if you have children, now is the time to go to their schools, get their records. If you don't have a copy of their diploma, go to their school, get the diploma, a copy, and go to their doctor because you would need their immunization record. So check off your list. This is the time. And with regards to goals and expectations, it is always important to have that, especially if you are going to change your life completely, because that would be your go to every time you have to make a decision, maybe a year or 2 years from now. Your goals with regards to your job, if you are going to change jobs or you're going to pursue the career that you have back in the Philippines, or you're going to change your career in the US, your goals would matter much because that would guide you. And if you think of buying a house, when you're going to buy a house, decisions that you have to make 2 or 3 years from now, because sometimes if you live in a very expensive place like LA or New York, you might, and depending on how important having owning a house to you, you might have to go back to your goal and maybe make decisions whether or not you have to move or not. So those are big decisions, and your goals and the reasons for your goals, the setting of your goals are very important. But what I can say is when you make your goals, be prepared, be flexible, not just for your goals, but yourself. Be flexible and make sure that your goals are not that high because you need to adjust to and understand that things are different here in the US. People are different in the US. Even your relatives, they might not be the relatives that you expect them to be. So just be ready to adapt and accept them. It's not their fault. Huwag ka masyadong nasasaktan ka agad, because really life is different here and people adapt and you would understand when you get here. So that's all I can say. Be ready to accept, the realities of the US.
Well, thank you, Sari. In my many years of experience as a PDOS officer at CFO, this question is always on the list of questions of our Filipino immigrants. They are asking, what should they pack and bring to the US? Can you give us some tip on how to decide which essential things are needed to be brought to the US? I think maybe Ernie can give us a hand on this.
Sure, sure. Uh, Basic comfortable clothing and a jacket is the priority. I really do advise that you check the weather here through any website uh, way before you actually come here, your scheduled flight, or better call your relatives, friends, or the host that you plan to be staying with. Do not bring a lot. You will be able to find affordable and with better quality clothing here, but do not be surprised. Mostly they are made in Asia. So I don't want to name what specifically from Asia. There are many clothing stores that you may want to start with, like the Salvation Army, Goodwill, Ross, etc., especially branded shoes at very reasonable prices. Then later, once you're totally settled here, you may go to branded name stores. Make sure that when you arrive, you have appropriate clothing. If you come to the US during summer, you can wear your clothes from the Philippines. Just to make sure you bring a light sweater with you. If you bring the cooler season, make sure you have one heavy jacket that you can wear when you get out of the airport. Even if your relative will say they will bring you a heavy jacket when they pick you up at the airport, just bring one, especially during winter in places like Chicago, New York, etc., because you may never know, there might be road closures in the airport and you have to walk outside to meet your relatives. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ernie, for that. Okay, guys, so alam nyo na kung ano ang mga essential things that you need to bring in the US. How about you, Leah? In addition to Ernest's tips, can you give our viewers some advice on what they
Yeah.
need to bring when immigrating
Okay.
to the
Yeah.
US?
Mhm.
Okay.
Already have said a lot already, kaya lang meron ako idadagdag ng mga importanteng papers, documents, or information na dapat nyong madala. If you have a medical issue, you need to have a medical prescription in your name, or medical prescription and medical certificate. This is important. Kids immunization or vaccination record in their medical record. Birth certificates. Well, bring some pair of glasses, extra pair of glasses or contact lens, just in case na mahulog, mawala. Importante po ang bank information, the bank SWIFT number for your bank transactions. Yung just, for, ready ka to work. Bring a copy of resume, copies of resume, just in case na you don't have access to a computer yet. So at least, if you are offered an interview, ready ka na, you have your own resume. Recommendation letters as well, or reference letters from your previous employers and their contact information. I know this very well because in my first job in New York, they contacted my previous employer. So you have to be ready for that. Your diploma, and mga transcript of records of yourself and your kids as well. Importante po ang mga bagay na dapat nating dalhin. Pero it is also important to know the things that we cannot or we are not allowed to bring to the U.S. And just want to give you an example. It's yung mga karne or meat and a couple of mga selected fruits. And you can find the list of all of this sa website po ng Customs and Border Protection. So just to be safe, wag magdadala ng mga hindi pwedeng dalhin. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Leah, for the suggestion. We'll take note of that. Like I said earlier from the start of this webinar, we are also broadcasting this at Facebook Live, via Facebook Live. And our Facebook Live audiences can send their questions and comments at the chat box. Actually, we have one now. May question dito, I believe. The question is, aalis po ako sa November, petition ako ng asawa ko. Ano po ang dapat kong gawin para makapagtrabaho sa Amerika? So yun ang tanong po ng ating audience. And I think Sally can help answer that question.
Yeah, sure. To be able to work legally here in the US, you have to have your social security number. Yun ang pinaka-importante. So when you get here, pag nakapagpahinga ka na, medyo, naka-adjust na sa tulog, you can go ahead and start the process of applying. And because you have to apply in person. But right now, hindi ka na pwedeng, because of the COVID situation, hindi ka na pwedeng just mag-walk in sa office. You have to call them and set an appointment because otherwise you cannot enter without the appointment. So, pag nakapagpahinga na ka, tumawag ka and then set an appointment and bring your documents. Usually, the documents that they need is just your passport and your immigration papers. If you have a green card, your visa, your work permit, yun ang kailangan nila when you get to the Social Security office on your appointment date. And the Social Security card will be mailed to you. It will take maybe 1 week to 10 days. And so pag once na sa'yo na yung Social Security card, you can go ahead and apply for a job. And your friends, your relatives can help you look for work opportunities, makakilala nila, or even at their work site, maybe may alam silang trabaho, you can tap on them to work for jobs. And also there are a lot of sites online that you can look up, and because because here in the US, the internet is really being used for job searches. When in 2007, that was years ago, when I moved to Las Vegas, I used Craigslist, that's online. I found a CPA firm there, and I was able to work in that office in Las Vegas for 5 years. And I was able to also use accountants. That's another accounting bookkeeping site that you can look into and find jobs. So there are more depending on your profession. and depending on what job you wanna do here in the US. So there's a lot of that. And all I can do is, it was mentioned that you should at least have your resume. It is good to have a resume, and then just tweak it a little. Right now, if you're still in the Philippines, try to research online how resumes are made here, because there's a little difference in resume making. Here, they would be highlighting your skills, your experience, more than you, and then the school. It's back in the Philippines. We usually highlight our personal information, the school where we graduated,
Gender.
before we tell them where we work experience. But it's a little bit different here, and so you may have to tweak your resume a little bit. And also, do not, depending on the job you're applying for, do not and tweak your resume again, because if you are overqualified here, they will not hire you. So tweak your resume a little bit and make it jive to the job you're applying for. And so, one last thing I have to mention is, in the US, the Filipinos have a really good reputation for being good workers. So your employer would really love you if you're a good worker. So if you're a good worker, just work hard and, um, work smart, of course. And that way, you can actually achieve your goals here, your dreams here in the US. Thank you. And good
Okay.
luck.
Yeah, thank you, Sally. So, guys, do not bring your photos. No need for photos on your credentials.
Yeah.
All right. Now, again, we had a message here from one of our viewers, Shania Gonzalez. She is asking how to apply for a driver's license in the U.S. So maybe Ernie could help her.
Sure.
All right. Go ahead, Ernie.
Yeah. Important here in the US is being independent and mobile is very important. Public transportation is reliable, but it takes time to reach your destinations. You will need to familiarize yourself with the basic traffic rules, especially on the freeways. You can use a valid Philippine driver's license for 3 months, or I guess 6 months, so you can practice driving with a relative or a friend who owns a vehicle or enroll in a traffic school. Once you get a license, then start driving within the city, then later on sa freeways. The office that issues driver license is the DMV or Department of Motor Vehicles. Go to the DMV office really early, because the lines can get very long, or better make an appointment online. You should have all the requirements with you. See the DMV websites for requirements. I don't know the specifics, but basically tax ID number, that would suffice. Or recently, very strict implementation of the Social Security. They want the Social Security number. Anyway, you will get your written exam on the day you apply. There are materials and practice tests in the DMV website, and tests uh, through online in the DMV office, not written exams. So you may expect, pen and paper. It's going to be a online exam. Upon passing, you will then schedule the appointment for the actual driving test. That's it.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ernie. It's nice to know pala na pwede nating gamitin temporarily yung ating Philippine driver's license in the US for 3 to 6 months. So that's good. Nice to know that pwede pala yun, no? And guys, just to inform you, we have a total number of 154 viewers right now watching us. Hi, guys, and thank you for staying.
Hi.
Now, another question from our viewer, her name is Christopher. Tinatanong ni Christopher, magkano po ang rent para sa maliit na apartment sa Amerika? Maybe you can help Christopher, Leah.
Oh, yes. Cost of rental varies per state po. And depende sa community. For example, sa California, sa New York, and sa Hawaii, they have high standards, high standard of living, meaning they also have high rental. I just want to give you an example. So in New York, well, my daughter is renting a one-bedroom apartment here, and it costs like 1,800 for just one bedroom. So to compare that, um, in Florida, that 1,800 would be a big house, or a full house with two bedrooms, or probably 2 to 3 bedrooms. So yun. And this is just an average, no? Yung 1,800 sa New York, it depends on the state, of course, and the cost of living. I have few things. I have few things for you to for you to know. Research online sa rental apartments or rental properties. There are many, but beware and be careful. Wag agad magbibigay ng pera. You can also research sa public places, mga community buildings. Usually the landlord would ask proof of income, and that would be the lease agreement or utility bill. So if you are living with a friend or relative, or obviously wala ka pang or wala ka pang proof of income, you can provide the yung kanilang utility bill or yung kanilang lease agreement sa landlord, and they will co-sign it. Meaning, if you won't be able to pay the rental, your co-signee will pay the rental. Just to note also, kung maghahanap kayo ng bahay, rental during winter and fall ay mas lower kesa sa summer. This is because yung during summertime, ang mga tao ay nagmo-move to other states or places because of work and school. And last, yung mga landlords would ask for security deposit. And this security deposit usually is 1 month, rental. They will give it back to you kapag umalis ka sa apartment, if wala silang dapat i-fix apartment, but they have to keep it, or they will keep it in case that they have to fix something sa inalisang mo apartment. So, just do the research carefully, and it's apartment is nowadays is medyo because of the COVID, especially here in New York, siguro sa ibang states din, medyo bumababa yung rental. But good luck on the search.
All right. Thank you, Leah, for that tip. So,
Yeah.
Christopher, that's your answer. Now, in my experience as a PDOS officer at CFO, mostly nakikita kong nagmamigrate ay mga families. Pamilya po sila, no? And since they are migrating together with their children, normally they ask how to register children for school. What are the documents the parents need to, or guardian, that they need to prepare to enroll their children to school? I believe Sally can help her, answer the question.
Yes, sure. But it was years and years ago when I enrolled my kids to school here. So, but I remember that I needed their birth certificates. If it's not original, it should be a certified true copy. And you should have your immunization record. And because when you enroll, I would suggest you bring your kids to the school, and a nurse would be there, and she will look at your immunization record. And if it's not complete, usually they would give the shots there. They would tell you they need the shots, and most of them are boosters. So the shots will be given there. That's from what I can remember. They get the shot the day I enrolled them. And also, when it comes to the school they're enrolling in, we have these school districts here. So if you know where you are going to, like the city you're going to, so ask what school district the city belongs to, and go online and check just check what the requirements are for new enrollees that are usually that are coming from outside the country, because they should have that in their website. And also, the system here is the school where you are enrolling. They have like you should belong to their area, so they would be asking you for a proof of address, and usually a utility bill would suffice as proof of address. And but because you enroll in a school that is where you don't live because it has an area, but in some cases, in some special cases, you will be able to enroll in a school that's outside your residence, the local area, and you just have to ask the school or uh, the the county, the school county, and just state your case. Like maybe, for example, what I can think of is if you drive 1 hour away from your home to work, maybe you can ask the district to have your children in the where you are, I mean, nearer to where you work, because that would be easier for you to drop them off, pick them up, and if you are being called, by the teacher or whatever reason, conferences, it would be a lot easier for you to go to the school if they're nearer your place of work, because you drive like an hour to your house. So if that is your case, just ask and just state your case, and those special cases, they probably listen to you. And also, yeah, I think that's all I can say for now. Just ask. Do not be afraid to ask, because that's, you can get answers. And yeah, that's how to
Okay.
information. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Sally. No? So yung mga magulang, that's your answer, no? For you want to enroll your children to the US schools. And I think, Leah, how about you? I know you have kids too. Can you give us some?
Yeah, I only had one kid na in-enroll ko dito sa New York. Yeah, but I would like to add lang dun sa ano mention na one of the first things that you have to do when you arrive in the US is to enroll your kid in school. I have a friend actually who is one of the storytellers on our book. He had an experience that hindi niya na-enroll agad ang kanyang anak dun sa school zone na gusto niya. So, they made a sacrifice. So, they ended up like enrolling the kid in a different school na medyo malayo sa kanya, because that they missed that opportunity. And as far as I know, yung mga school zones din naman ay parang napupuno yata yan, yung by grade level and everything. So it's very crucial. One of the first things you have to do is to enroll your kid in school, and that is to visit or call the school district. In addition to that information earlier, in most cases in the US, they will determine the grade level of the kid based from the age level and the previous grade sa Pilipinas. Like my son, well, I was kind of aggressive at that time because my son finished his yung third year high school in the Philippines, and so I kind of fought for it. I said, well, he's already in that level of 40 of senior high, so they honored it, and they based it from his yung kanyang records sa grade niya sa Philippines, and it turned out so well. And also in some cases, the child would be tested to determine the grade in school. And as you know, mga Pilipino, and I know a couple of kids or parents who have kids, they're smart, and when they take the tests, they get accelerated, and we are. We know a lot of Filipino kids like that, so we're proud of it. So good luck sa enrollment ng anak mo. Don't forget, one of the things to do is to enroll your kid in the school.
Yes, thank you, Leah. Leah, for that information. So, education kasi is a basic right of a child. So that's a first thing to do if you're migrating together with your children in the US. We'll take note of this. Now, as we reach the end of our segment, Buhay Pinoy sa Amerika Part 1, the honeymoon stage, setting goals and expectation is very important before immigrating to the US. A while ago, we also learned from our guest experiences useful tips on what essential things we need to bring to the US and how to find employment, how to apply for a US driver's license, finding accommodation, and how to enroll your kids to schools in the US. I think we covered a lot of topic, don't you think?
Mhm.
So before we let you go, guys, for a final statement, we request you to do it creatively. Please tell us a song that you can think of that will best describe your immigration journey or migration journey to the US. And also, can you please sing a few lines? Now, while they are thinking of a song, I would like to announce that Miss Leah Ocampo is giving away 3 copies of her ebook, What We Know for Sure, which is flashed on the screen right now, for those who are watching. The mechanic is just it's very simple. Just type our hashtag. The hashtag is CFOUSPDOS. Migration is a choice. I repeat, just type our hashtag on the chat box at CFOUSPDOS. Migration is a choice. And later, we will announce the winner. Now, why migration is a choice as a tagline? Because at the end of the day, even if migration is inevitable, we are still the one who will decide if we should stay or we should go. It's a question 10,000s of people around the world are facing. With few opportunities at home, many people seek to go abroad, but there are risks, potential for abuses, few guarantees of safety, and a little guarantee that the rights of migrant will be respected. So this is why setting your goals and expectation is very important to arrive at a well-informed decision. Now, uh, we need to ask ourselves, just like what Miss Leah said a while ago, are you ready? Are you prepared for the work and the sacrifice involved in immigrating to the US? Only you can answer that question. Now, let us hear the song that describes the migration journey of Ernie and Sally first.
Here you go.
Going back.
Uh, it's a song from by Frank Sinatra, "My Way," but I will sing only a portion of that. Regrets, I had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do, and saw it through without exception. I planned each charted course, each careful step along the byway, and more, much more than this. We did it our way. That song, it's based on our experiences here. There were ups and downs along the way, but be strong and do your part. Carefully select your friends, learn the culture, be honest, be thankful, and be appreciative. Uh, be humble, but know your basic rights, human rights. Update yourself with the latest technology. Do your job well. With perseverance and the Lord's help, you will overcome everything. Thank you.
That's well said. Thank you very much, Ernie and Sally. How about Leah? Let's hear Leah. What is your
Okay.
song?
I think I was ready earlier before, even before you asked. When CFO asked me for the song, I have a perfect song, and I have been ready because this song is actually inspired by my story, and this song is written in the book. The song is "The Empire State of Mind" by Alicia Keys. There you go. What they say.
Nice.
That's it, okay? So that's the best that I could do. But just a simple message about the song. The song says that in New York, get a pocket full of dreams, and I had. If I can make it here, I can make it, or you can make it anywhere. New York is a melting pot. You can do. There's nothing you can do in New York. Well, after 5 years, in the beginning it was not easy, but after 8 years, so not 5 years, after 8 years, the my dreams were fulfilled, and the dreams of my dreams for my children. I became a flight attendant. I love what I do. I am traveling the world. Now I have a book to share with you, to immigrants, to each and every one of you. And this book features my story and 25 stories of my former colleagues back at the embassy. Like you, we were immigrants, and it was our choice. We made our choice. Now it is your choice. You have to prove that it is a good choice. I encourage you to have this state of mind to succeed. Good luck. Magkita tayo sa US and salamat.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing your experience, guys. And we hope to see you soon in our future shows. We'll be back for this
Thank
short
you.
video. Yeah,
Thank
we'll be
you.
back for this short video. Don't change your channel.
During the show.
This is Joanna Bautista, and you are watching CFO Connect. Did you know there are 10.2 million overseas Filipinos in more than 200 countries and territories all over the world? That's 9.2% of our overall population, which is an estimated 110 million, currently divided into three categories: irregular, temporary, and permanent migrants. Let's further look into permanent migrants. This term refers to the people who are given the right to live and work indefinitely in their destination countries. In the US, they are most commonly called as green card holders. CFO data shows that since 1981 to 2018, there have been listed 1,474,077 Filipinos who have migrated in the US, with a large majority being situated in the mainland US at 96.8%, and the rest in the US insular areas and its territories. Now, let's look into our people's top destination states in the US. Did you know the state of California lists the most number of Filipino immigrants in the US at 43.09%? That's more than 500,000 Filipino immigrants in one state. Hawaii claimed the second spot at 19.09%, followed by Illinois and New York at 4.52% and 4.24%, respectively. Other major states of destination include New York, Texas, Washington, Florida, Guam, and Virginia. And that ends our quick edition of CFO Connect. Join us next time.
Good morning and welcome back to our Usapang Stateside at Iba Pa. I am Celine and I will be your host for this segment, Buhay Pinoy sa Amerika, Part 2, or the adjustment stage. So what does it mean? What does adjustment stage mean? So it is an increased ability to adjust to new cultural patterns. And then the impact of culture shock decreases because you've been exposed a lot with the country's culture. And then you will have a sense of appreciation and understanding for cultural similarities and differences between our Filipino culture and the culture of your country of destination, which in this case is the US. Then another important term is the assimilation begins. So it means you're already familiar with the country's social customs and norms of the place. So in this segment, we are actually joined by two lovely speakers to give their own insights about adjusting in the US. So I'll start with Mary Grace Mababang Loob Castro. She is an education specialist. She's an orthopedic impaired specialist in California with teaching credentials that's in line with her work. She got married last 2009 and now has two kids. Mary Jane Our next speaker is Mary Jane Rosales. Oh, here is Mary Grace Mababang Loob Castro. Hello, good
Hello.
evening.
Hi, Celine. Good morning. Good morning, Jan. Good evening
Yes,
here in the US.
okay. I'll introduce our second speaker, Mary Jane Rosales. She is a human resource expert of a retail company and currently has a business of her own. She's running her own family childcare or preschool, and she's also married and has 3 kids. Mary Jane, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Celine. Good evening sa inyong lahat dyan. And thank you for inviting us. And hopefully our sharing will be helpful to you guys.
Yes. So, good morning to our viewers and good evening again, Grace and Jane. Welcome to our segment, Buhay Pinoy sa Amerika Part 2, the adjustment stage. So, earlier, for the Part 1, Leah Ocampo highlighted the need to have a life purpose before you migrate. You need to have it planned out from the start. And now let's assume that the migrants had been staying in the US for, let's say, a couple of months, 6 months to a few years now. And somehow they're familiar with their routine already, like getting to the supermarket, bringing their children to school, and most importantly, they are ready, or they have been recently notified that they can start working. So my question to you both: how should they prepare for their first day of work? Can you please share your experience, like, um, set what is the expectation of our migrants, setting their work expectation, since Filipino migrants will be working with different nationalities. For example, people with different religious beliefs, with a different culture, coming from different countries, and having different political views. So, what can you say about that, Jane?
Thank you, Celine. That's a very good point, prepare for your first day of work. Um,
Yes.
of course, normally first day of work is your orientation day. So it is the time when you will be introduced to the company. You will learn about the basic operations of the company, um, the the business is about. You will meet your peers. You will meet your leadership team. You will be introduced to the policies and procedures currently hired. And of course, my best advice would be, because in my own experience, I really had to observe a lot. I need to know how they do things so that I can adapt to that way. Um, observe a lot. Keep in mind, um, alam mo naman tayo, marami tayong mga biases, personal biases. So it's not bad to have personal biases, but at the same time, we need to manage our own personal biases. So keep an open mind. Um, avoid assuming. Ask a lot of
Mhm.
questions, and clarify things. Yon, clarify
Mhm.
things. Of course, always be respectful and tactful kasi nga, you will be working with a very diverse community, diverse group. So always keep an open mind and always be respectful. And just be your best self, show them what you got. Uh, it's okay to adapt, but at the same time, don't lose the process. Yeah, yun lang siguro yung pinaka basic na masasabi ko about your transition to your new job here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Jane. So basically, you said first day of work would be an orientation day and introduction to the team or to the company, and then yun nga, wag mahiyang magtanong, 'di ba po, Jane? Yun talaga ang keep an open mind, wag mahiyang magtanong. So, Grace, do you have, can you share your experience also?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I still believe that Filipinos by nature are respectful, hardworking, loving, and caring. Carry these Filipino
Mhm.
values with you. Etong mga values na to, dito tayo nakilala, tayong mga Pilipino. While we know these positive values, let us also be aware of some of our characteristics or gestures that might be misinterpreted.
Yeah.
Example, ako rin, ganito rin ako eh. Example, pointing using our lips. Meaning doon, doon, doon. Or beso, beso. Doing this is a no-no if you just met for the first time. Another is our language. Please do not talk in your foreign language at work. This is rude to other ethnicities. Be aware also that some words are quite the same in Spanish. There's one teacher, a Filipino teacher, who got in trouble before because she used the word BOBO for referring to a student. Hispanic yung estudyante niya. So, ano nangyari? Di na trouble siya. Read your employee's manual. This is your guide. You are not these. You are not there to discuss your political and religious beliefs. You are at work to perform the task assigned to you. Yun. Ayun, sana naman maliwanag sa mga Pilipinong pupunta dito.
Yes. Thank you, Grace. For sure, those advice are helpful. Like what was mentioned earlier, you have to keep an open mind. At times, you have to unlearn the things that nakasanayan na natin dito because we have also to adapt sa ating new environment, especially sa States, di ba po? And then, you have to observe other people, how they do things, and then I do agree na you have to be yourself and do your best. And yes, we have to keep our positive Filipino values also. Kasi that's our identity pa rin po, di ba? And
Yeah.
always remember to be, and then always remember to be respectful and not to be taklesa, di ba po?
Oo.
So
Oo.
I think this means now we have to be mindful and now let's go down memory lane. So throwback tayo konti. So tapos na po tayo sa first day of work. And then I want to know what were the difficulties that you have encountered on your first job and how did you overcome it? Grace, can you shed some light about the
Okay.
difficulties that you've experienced?
Okay. Having an accent. Advice to give you is forget about watching telenovelas for now. Instead, watch news daily. I also go to I also got the liberty to move from not so many Asians in the city to a very diverse city. At home, it is mostly Indians from India, Chinese, Taiwanese, Koreans, and Europeans. At work, my assistants are very diverse. I have Ethiopian, Persian, British, and Hispanics from Mexico and Honduras. Siyempre, more difficulties came my way, no? When I was starting, I was functioning as a special ed teacher while still working on to be a fully credentialed teacher, taking classes and taking teacher board exams within the time frame. In California, we have CBEST, California Basic Exam for Teachers, CSET, California Subject Examinations for Teachers, RICA, Reading Instruction Competence Assessment, and of course, the U.S. Constitution. Another one was lack of experience in this field. When I came here, hindi naman ako special ed teacher sa Pilipinas eh. So, hindi ko alam kung nung talaga yung, although I took classes, but a few classes only. And so, I used to be, I was as a kindergarten teacher in San Beda, Alabang, formerly known as San Beda College in Alabang, formerly known as Benedictine Abbey School. So while I was teaching students, while I was teaching students with moderate to severe disabilities, and at the same time, I was managing people. Yung mga taga rito, mas magaling pa sa akin, di ba? Dahil they've been here for, and then they've been doing this job for a long time. So, mas mukha silang guro kaysa sa akin. So, yun yung mga naging difficulties ko. Pero how did I overcome it? I set goals. I put timelines. Well, actually, my job set my timelines. I don't have a choice. Example, I needed to pass CBEST within a year so I could still work as a full-time teacher. I needed to pass CSET so I could take more classes. Yes, I had some roadblocks, but I believe in the power of prayers. Plus, I was able to refocus and revisit my goals and timelines with the support of my mom and some friends. Yan yung share ko.
I see no na it truly sobrang diverse ng mga kasama po ninyo sa work. And your journey towards being able to teach is mahaba-haba, ang daming exams.
Daming exam.
So, thank you, Grace. What about you, Jane? What were your difficulties that you've encountered, and how did you overcome them?
Well, definitely, I can relate to Grace's sharing about accent and about dealing with different kinds of people. But when I came here, that was in 2002. I believe that was the height of the recession here. So a lot of people are living off of their unemployment insurance. So marami kang kakumpetensya sa paghahanap ng trabaho. So finding job was my first challenge when I came here. So kasi I've been in the human resources field when I was there in the Philippines as well. So when I came here, my expectations was I can land into an HR job right away. But of course, it did not happen kasi nga marami kang kompetensya. So what I had to do is I just have to grab whatever available opportunities out there. So I landed on my my first job was an after-school care teacher. That was my first job, and I'm doing it for part-time. Yeah. So from then on, I built my community, I built my connection, and then eventually, I landed into my my HR job. Yeah. And another challenge that I encountered when I was just really new here is commuting, because I am not a good driver. Never driven, even if I was in the Philippines, hindi ako nagda-drive. So, masyado siyang nakaka-culture shock dito. So, but if you are a good driver in the Philippines, sisiw sa'yo dito, kayang-kaya mo. But yeah, and plus, the public transportation here is not very, hindi siya ganun ka-dami. At yung madalas, hindi katulad dyan sa atin. So, they run on a schedule. So, whatever bus route you're taking, you have to know what time they're going to be at a certain bus stop, and you have to be there at that bus. Otherwise, you're going to be left. So, yun lang naman. But, marami ng available na transportation option.
Okay. Thank you, Jane. So correct me if I'm wrong. Is it cheaper to get a car instead of using public transportation?
It's not necessarily cheaper, but it is definitely a necessity to have your own car. It will give a lot of fluidity when it comes to working around your schedule. Kung meron kang gustong puntahan, kung meron kang appointment, you can definitely go to your appointment right away because you have your own car. As opposed to have to depend on public transportation, or as opposed to you have to depend on a friend driving for you. Mas advantage talaga if you have your own car and you can drive, even if just basic routes like work to home to school, home to work, or hospitals. Ang inaral ko, sabi ko, I will drive because I need to be able to take my kids to school. I will drive because I need to be able to work, or I will drive because I need to be able to take my kids to hospital in case of emergency. Yun.
Yeah.
Yung factors ko, kaya nagpursige akong mag-aral mag-drive. Yeah. But of course, for some people,
Yeah.
madali mag-drive. Kaya lang, for a person, it's not my cup of tea. So, it's an effort. Yeah.
It is important to be independent pag nandyan na po, di ba? So, Grace mentioned earlier that in order to overcome difficulties during your first day of work or sa first job ninyo, it's important to set goals and to stick to your timeline. And also, Jane mentioned na yun nga po, one of the most important skill is knowing how to drive. And I like that it was mentioned about mindsetting that you have to grab whatever job opportunity that's available. Wag po tayong maging choosy, di ba po? You may not land right away sa dream job nyo, but you have to work hard in order to get your dream job. So, actually, we have a phone patch from Pasay City who would like to ask a question. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Hello, good
Hello?
morning.
Maayong
Yes,
buntag, ma'am.
maayong buntag po.
Mm.
Kaya,
Oo, maayong buntag po sa atong mga speakers, resource speakers ug sa tanang mga viewers.
okay. Ma'am, unsay imong pangalan?
Oo, ma'am ako si Karina, taga Surigao City pero sa Pasay City na ko nagpuyo karon.
Mhm.
Oo,
Sige,
so ah,
unsa imong namoy pangutana para
oo
sa
ma'am,
atong mga
so oo, mao kini ang akong pangutana ma'am sa atong mga speakers. Unsa nga mga dokumento ang gikinahanglan nako nga andamon para sa pagpanrabaho nako sa Amerika?
Okay. For our speakers, Miss Karina is from Surigao. She said she's from Surigao and she's actually speaking in Bisaya. So let me quickly translate what she said. Ang tanong po niya is, anong mga documents ang kailangan niyang ihanda para makapagtrabaho sa Amerika or pagdating sa Amerika? Jane, can you help Ma'am Karina about ano yung mga documents na kailangan?
So, thank you, Karina. Um, if you're talking about documents that establish um, meron yung mga technical side. So I would definitely add to the website, the www.uscis.gov/I9, kasi it has all the different kinds of documents or identification that you will be asked to provide once you are hired um, by your employer. So, several documents, a few examples would be your permanent resident card. So, if you are an immigrant via petition, so if your status in the United States is a permanent resident, then definitely you will be holding a permanent resident card or a green card. So, yan yung ipipresent mo sa employer mo. Now, if you migrated in the States for a an employer-sponsored visa, yung mga employers, mga companies na naging sponsor ng certain tasks, like yung mga engineers, nurses, or teachers, mga ganyan, then definitely, kung ano yung nakasaad dun sa visa mo, yun yung magiging katunayan that you are authorized to work. So normally, it comes with an employment authorization document. So you have to make sure that you have that on your first day of work kasi hanapin yan ng employer mo. Now, if your status in the United States is you are a U.S. citizen, then you can have several documents like your driver's license or your U.S. State card. Kung nasa California ka, so California State ID card, your Social Security card. For students, they can also present their current school ID and of course a birth certificate kung dito sila ipinanganak. So hindi siya very specific, but depende nga sa katayuan mo, so pagpasok mo dito sa Amerika, that will determine the type of document that you will be presenting to your employer in order for you to be eligible to work. I hope that helps. Thank you, Karina.
Thank you, Jane. Grace, do you have something to add?
Yes, as Celine, right?
Okay.
Oh, Karina,
Yes.
you're the one who's on the phone. If you come here and plan to work the same profession you had in the Philippines, teacher, nurse, for example, teacher, nurse, engineer, please bring at least 5, 7, 10 signed, sealed, and stamped transcript of records. Bakit? In my experiences in moving from a district to another, all of them ask for a signed, sealed, and stamped TOR or transcript of records. Even kahit na yung even if I had my TOR evaluated and certified by the Curriculum Equivalency Credential Evaluation Agency sa Amerika, tapos kahit na yung nag-aral din ako dito, kailangan din ng yung eskwelahan ko dito sa Amerika na signed, sealed, stamped na TOR. Maliwanag ba? Naintindihan?
Sige po. Ma'am Karina?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So kato, ang tubag sa atong mga speakers, ang ingon nila Jane o Grace na kinahanglan nimo na magdala at least 5 to 7 na signed, sealed, and stamped na transcript of record from kung gikan sa Pilipinas o pag-abot nimo diri kung nag-eskwela ka sa Amerika. Kay importante ang mga original na dokumento kay para na sa imuhang credential evaluation. And mas makatabang po sa imuha kung muadto ka sa website nila sa www.uscis.gov/I-9. So, unta nakatabang tong mga tubag nila Jane and Grace sa imuha, Ma'am Karina.
Ay, oo ma'am, actually nakatabang kaayo. So, daghang salamat sa CFO, labi na sa atong mga resource speakers karong buntaga. So, dako kaayo ning nga tabang kani nga webinar para sa ako ang nag-start na magprepara sa akong mga dokumento para sa pagpanabaho nako sa Amerika. So, daghan kaayong salamat, ma'am.
Thank you
Okay,
too.
salamat. Salamat po kayo, Ma'am Karina, sa iyong pangutana. So, another question from FB, from Emery Hemsworth. Good day to everyone. I will be migrating to the US next year with my 5-year-old son with special needs. Do you know of any assistance that we can avail there or sa Amerika?
I can answer that, Celine.
Yes, Grace, go ahead.
Your regional center will determine how much assistance your child needs. Usually, a child gets a monthly financial assistance from Supplemental Security Income, SSI ang tawag doon. Your child may get personal needs such as diapers, chucks, etc. Parents can get respite care. Again, it all depends on the child's disability needs. So ang makakakuha no, ang makakapag tawag nun, call nun is yung social worker, more case worker. It also may be based on family income. So go to your nearest, go to your regional center. Malalaman mo 'yon pag nag-enroll ka nga sa school ng anak mo.
So, I see, no? That's very good to hear. It's so good to know na ang dami palang mga assistance na pwedeng i-avail ng ating mga kapwa Pilipino, kahit immigrant pa sila, for their family na may special needs. So, thank you for that helpful information, Grace. So, I'm actually really curious about this. Are there any short courses migrants can take while they are looking for work? Because I also have a related question in mind. Is it really required for professionals like for a licensed teacher here in the Philippines to take additional courses pa in the US or pagdating nila sa US before they can actually teach or they can actually practice their profession? Jane, maybe you can share about ano yung parang required ba talaga na mag-additional short courses before makapractice sa kanilang profession sa States?
Yes, definitely. I can answer that. When it comes to short courses, it's not required. But if you are curious and you know how your community works, that's a good way to start because there you will meet a lot of people. Iba-ibang klase, and then meron kang instructor na mamimit mo rin that can also be that can act as your resource person as well. So there are many adult education schools that you can reach out to depende na lang sa local local area mo. And when it comes to your profession, for example, you're a teacher, you're a nurse, you're an engineer, of course, kailangan mo pa rin kumuha ng corresponding licenses nila dito. Depending on your specialization, you may need to complete some credentials here to practice their profession. And definitely teachers do that, as what Grace shared earlier. That took a lot of tests and studied more. Yeah. You can refer to www.ctc.ca.gov for more information on teachers' credentials kasi nandun talaga lahat sila. At some I did that too, but I did not pursue. For the field, there's no mandatory requirement, but it would be a plus if you have a PHR or Professional in Human Resources certificate, and you will learn about the details of this at www.hrci.org kasi nandun sa lahat. I'm planning to take that actually. Wala pa ako niyan, but I'm planning to take it this year.
Okay. Thank you, Jane, and good luck dun sa sa ite-take po ninyo. Grace, what about you? What are your thoughts about yung required ba talaga na mag short courses before you can practice your profession?
Okay, licensed teachers, nurses, engineers are licensed in their home country. So this does not mean that they can automatically take their license with them here. As I mentioned earlier, they need to find an agency to do their TOR equivalency. That's Foreign Educational Credential Evaluation. Sa akin, I submitted mine sa IERF, International Education Research Foundation. So go to www.ierf.org so you have an idea. There are more agencies like this. Usually, Filipino teachers who are fully credentialed in the Philippines get the California Preliminary Credential. Again, they still need to take the teacher board exams and maybe 1 to 2 years worth of classes to have clear credential. In addition to my answer, even here in the US, if one is credentialed or certified in his profession in a state where he is, it does not mean that he is a credentialed teacher or certified in that profession in another state. If it is for teachers, one needs to know the Teaching Certification Reciprocity Agreement. It is the transferring of teaching certification from one state to another. Dahil California, fully credentialed ako, pag pumunta ako ng halimbawa Las Vegas, Nevada yon, one sem, kailangan ko mag-aral ng one sem. Yung ibang teachers na galing sa ibang states, pupunta sa California, maybe they need to do a year of classes. So hindi lang dahil galing ka sa Pilipinas mag-aaral ka pa, hindi. Kahit dito sa Amerika, state to state, magkakaiba yung credentialing. Tapos hindi naging clear yung yung sagot ko kanina, Celine, yung kung ano yung kailangan nung mother pag merong may special child siya, yung child with disabilities, yeah. Kailangan niya, she has to go to the district where they belong. So the district will evaluate the child with disabilities. So minsan yung bata merong speech and language therapy services, occupational therapy services, physical therapy services, and or behavior therapy services sa school. Pag naman pag yung bata naka-wheelchair, kailangan ng wheelchair, some kind of wheelchair, meron din tayong California Children's Services. Once na na-establish ito, na child with special needs siya, she can take the IEP or individualized education program na document niya dun sa regional center na kung saan siya sako. So yun, sana paliwanagan siya. Sorry, hindi ko masyado napaliwanag kanina.
Sige lang, okay lang po yun. So it's a series of exams and evaluations po, ano? And it depends where state you're living. So it doesn't mean na you've done your evaluation and exam sa isang state and then makapagtrabaho ka na sa ibang state. Tama po ba?
Yeah. Mag-aaral ka pa rin.
Mag-aaral pa rin. And then, in finding an agency to do your TOR equivalency, do you need to pay a lot for it or is it expensive? Yung foreign educational credential evaluation.
Yeah, it's expensive. Please just go to www.ierf.com kasi ang tagal na 2002 pa ako eh. Nagpa-evaluate ng credential ng curriculum.
Okay. So, tama po yun, no? Learning never stops po talaga wherever you are. And in order to practice your profession or in order for you to study, dapat kailangan magtipid talaga.
Tipid. Yeah, wag muna kayong bumili ng mga branded items, ng mga branded purses. Hindi importante.
Yes, especially madaming temptation dyan, especially, you'll be handling dollars na and baka ma-overwhelm and buy a lot. You have to think pa rin po na you still have a lot of bills and kailangan. So,
and things to do.
Yes. So, thank you for that, Grace. And ngayon, for example, nakuha na nila yung kanilang mga necessary credentials na kailangan para makapagtrabaho. Ang tanong ko ngayon is, how do you find jobs in the US? Jane, maybe you can share how to find jobs in the US?
Oh, yes, definitely. Katulad din dyan, for sure, gumagamit na lahat ng internet. So, nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
your internet is the best tool to see the world out there, you know. If you have a prospective employer, make sure that you search them on the website. So, search their website para mapag-aralan mo kung ano yung kailangan nila. And halos ng mga companies, the application is in their website. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would also suggest go create your own profile account on www.linkedin.com. So,
Mm-hmm.
ito yung Facebook version ng um, mga companies, yung mga professional employees naghahanap ng tao, pumupunta sa LinkedIn. And ikaw, if you're looking for a job, you also go to LinkedIn and marami naka-post na jobs doon. And then, at the www.indeed.com, and that's another site that we go to as an employer when we're trying to search for, talents. Same thing with www.careerbuilder.com. Yan. Pare-pareho lang yan. It's a human resource site. It's hiring people. And then there's also some local employment agencies in your area na pwede mo ring tingnan, make it as a resource. In our city, we have the Nova Works. So the web www.novaworks.org. I'm sure in different areas meron ding corresponding version ng local agency. And for teachers, there's a website called www.edjoin.org para malaman mo naman kung ano yung mga available work in the different school districts. Kasi minsan meron din namang hindi, not necessarily a teacher, meron din natawag na para-educators. So meron mga jobs din na hindi ka teacher but you're assisting the credential teacher. Tawag nila. And of course, make connections, around you sa mga nakasalamuha mo na. Yun yung maganda doon kasi nagbi-build ka na ng community mo. You're building your own circle of influence. So,
your own network.
in a way, makaka-transition ka na in goal na makahanap ng dream job mo.
Yes. So, building your own network, tama po ba?
Yes.
Para magkaroon ng support group. Jane, you've mentioned na most of the companies now sa States, their application is actually in their website. So, ask ko lang, small question lang. Hindi na po ba uso yung mag-walk-in ka and, give your resume and mag-a-apply ka? Or nangyayari pa rin ba yan?
Pero ganun pa rin yun. Pag merong nag-walk-in sa amin, we will still advise them to fill up an application online.
So, everything is online, no? So, kailangan talaga mag-adapt.
Yes. Kung hindi ka masyadong tech-savvy, medyo, aralin mo na yung basic skills, kumbaga.
Yes. All right. So, thank you, Jane. So, for this segment, we tackled about cultural assimilation, setting work expectations as part of immigrants' adjustment in the US. So I couldn't forget what Mary Grace said about forget watching telenovelas, especially Filipinos. We love drama, we love telenovelas, but actually it's really helpful to watch and read the daily news instead. Para we're updated. And Mary Jane also imparted with us about how to get a job and earning your credentials, which will definitely come in handy, especially yung mga I hope our viewers took note of those um, some of the websites that you mentioned, and it was also flashed in the screen. So before we end this segment, for your final message, Grace and Jane, can you share with us your quotable quotes or favorite quote that best describe your migration journey to the US? Grace, you may start.
Okay, madami ako pero I will mention some. I planned
All
my
right.
success. I knew it was going to happen by Erica Badu. Um,
Mm-hmm.
nag-aral ako na nag-aral. So, ngayon, okay na ako. So, I am grateful, thankful, and blessed. So, for
Mm-hmm.
you guys who are watching this and who would like to come here in the States, today is the opportunity to build tomorrow you want. You're the one who's building your tomorrow. So, focus
Mm-hmm.
on your goals or your
Mm-hmm.
purpose. This is by Ken Poiro. Another one which I always remember, which I would always sing, you know, during my early years here. Pagka napapagod ako, pag sobrang stress ako, hindi ko alam gagawin ko. At kilala niyo si Bambo, di ba? Yung
Mm-hmm.
kanta ni Bambo, meron akong CD nun sa kotse. Noy
Wow.
Hoy, Pinoy ako. Buo ang aking loob. May agimat ang dugo ko. Yan.
Wow, such powerful message po,
Uh-huh.
pang-uplift talaga po. Thank you for sharing your quotable quotes and um, yung message po ninyo, Grace.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
So, so Jane, what about you?
Okay. Kaya ng kay Grace, yung sa akin medyo boring. Boring. Cliche na siya. But I think this is still, practically relative pa rin siya. Practically related pa rin siya sa journey ko as a migrant. Kasi, ang sabi ko,
Mhm.
when in Rome, do as Romans do. Kasi, ang
Mhm.
naging is makibagay, makibagay ka kung saan ka naroon. But at the same time, makibagay ka without losing your true self, Don't lose yourself in the process. Stay true to yourself. But, and at the same time, nakaka-assimilate ka sa mga taong kasama. So, yeah, yun lang. Pasensya na masyadong cliche. Wala akong maisip na iba.
No, that's actually perfect. That's true. In Filipino psychology, we call it pakikisama. So that's really important when you migrate. So thank you, lovely ladies, Grace and Jane. Thank you for sharing with us your experiences. We hope to see you again in our future webinars. We'll be back after this short video. Don't go away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to another edition of CFO Connect. This is Joanna Bautista. I'm pretty sure everyone here is ready to migrate to the United States of America. Some must have packed their luggage and bought airline tickets, right? I'm sure everyone is excited to go to the US to finally start working or reunite with your families. But before anything else, let's talk about 3 interesting life-saving facts before you enter the US. Number 1, did you know that in the US, there's a tipping etiquette? Of course, tipping is not an unfamiliar concept to Filipinos because we do tip. But how much we tip, it usually does not matter. In the US, however, tipping is a culture that dates back to post-Civil War era. While tipping is not mandatory, in the US, it is customary in many circumstances for services. There is this expectation that when someone receives any personal service, a tip should be prepared. For food servers, rental car drivers, taxis, housekeeping, and valet. A good tip is no less than 15% of your overall bill. So say, for example, your total bill for a meal at a good restaurant is $35. With excellent service, then your tip may be about $7. Anything less indicates that you were unhappy with the service. If you can afford it though, if you cannot afford to tip, don't. There's another tip though. Saying thank you may work too. Number two, use your words. If you have something you do not agree with or you are uncomfortable with, say it. It is not a matter of sensitivity with other people's emotion, but a matter of communication. If you do not say anything, don't expect that you will be understood. Americans and generally most people in the US are known for being direct and upfront with their words. To them, it's best to be upfront and honest so you do not take it hard. If you don't like what you hear, think about it. If you realize that it is really on you, then accept it as a constructive criticism and use it to improve yourself. But if you realize that it is nonsense, call them out for it, no hard feelings. Number three, respect diversity. Please remember that, like the Philippines, the US is a diverse country. Not just diverse in dialect or religion, like the Philippines, but a whole language and descent. And since this is a fact that you will have to live by when you get there, make sure to be careful with your words and actions. Make sure to respect differences. Filipinos are very well known for being flexible and adaptable people, so I'm sure this is an easy peasy lemon squeezy task for you. And that ends our quick edition of CFO Connect. Make sure to like us on Facebook and stay tuned for more country-specific webinars. Thank you so much and stay safe.
Good morning, Philippines.
And good evening, America.
As we near our webinar or our end of our webinar, we would like to thank those who are watching us via live Facebook. Earlier in the show, I have announced that we will be giving away electronic copies of the Handbook for Filipinos Migrating to the United States, seen on the screen also. Please answer our evaluation to get a free copy. Your feedback is important to us. So let us know how we can improve our online PDOS webinar. If you want to participate in our future webinar, please send an email to Miss Ivy Miravalles at miravallesIB@gmail.com. I repeat, that's miravallesIB@gmail.com. Okay, what do we have for our last segment, Celine?
Alright, so ngayon, ako na naman ang magtatanong sa'yo, Alan. Do you think after hearing our resource speakers, sa palagay mo ba ready ka na if ever you will be given a chance to migrate sa US? What do you think?
Celine, with that point, I've worked in the Middle East, particularly in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for almost 4 years. And adjusting to a new country wouldn't be as easy at first. You need to learn the culture, the language, the customs, and laws of your host country. Actually, I've learned a few Arabics myself. I do speak a little Arabic. When you were greeted by an Arab, let's say they say Assalamu alaikum, you had to reply alaikum assalam.
Yes, malaikum
Then
salam.
yes, so that's the custom you need to do. I also know how to count few Arabics. That one is Wahid, Etnin, Talata, Arba, Kamsa. That's a few things that you need to learn prior to migrating to or working to another country. And I can probably survive in the U.S. on my own, but I want to hear and learn from our guests how they did it. So I can't wait to introduce our first guest for our last segment. She is a former colleague of mine. During the time she worked as an account executive at the WS Publishing Corp in Makati City, where I also worked. She was also a marketing program executive at Hewlett Packard Philippines and managed her own PR and events company 6 years before migrating to the US. And in March 2001, she migrated to the US. The following year, 2002, she became a wife to Terry Messersmith. And during her stay in the US, she founded a marketing agency called East West Communications that operated from 2007 to 2011. And in the year 2013, she founded a graphic and commercial printing business called Docs and Images, and still in operation to this day. She also held various positions at the Filipino American Chamber of Commerce of Silicon Valley as a board secretary, president, and currently as chairman of the President's Council. Her passion and advocacy is to mentor aspiring entrepreneurs, including Filipinos who want to do business in Silicon Valley and help educate them on the culture and best business practices in the US. Let us all welcome Ms. Nell Capistrano Messersmith. Hello, Nell.
Hello. Hi, Alan. Thank you so much for the good introduction. It's
Yes,
really
it's
great to
nice.
see you again.
Yes, it's nice to see
Hi,
you again.
Celine.
Yeah, I
Good
can't believe
evening,
19 years
Nell.
ka na palang nakatira sa US.
Yes, Alan.
Okay. Um, I'll introduce our last speakers, but definitely not the least. So our next guest speakers, they're another lovely couple. Introducing to you, um, they've been living in the US for 28 years since 1992. Hindi pa po ako pinapanganak. So they have two kids, three grandchildren, and great grandchildren. Crispin Nunez is currently a senior accountant, while Marilu Nunez is a retired accountant of the City of Richmond's Police Department. Crispin, Marilu,
Hi, good evening
Hello,
to
good
both of
evening,
you.
good morning in the Philippines.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, thank you for this
good evening
opportunity.
to you
Uh,
there.
Naway
All right.
makatulong kami sa ating mga kababayan diyan.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
thank you.
Good evening, Nell, Crispin, and Marilu.
Good
Welcome
evening.
to our final segment of Usapang Stateside at Iba Pa, Buhay Pinoy sa Amerika Part 3, or the adaptation stage. It is called also the mastery stage because in this stage, immigrants begin to solve problems and manage the new culture. They begin to accept differences and uniqueness in each culture. In this stage, the immigrant begins to feel at home in the host country. Now, with regards to this, I would like to ask our guest speakers, what is the most significant change that you had to adopt during your first year of migration in the US? For example, with regards to food, work ethics, or being on time. Can you give us some uh, tips on that during your first year in the US? Let's say Crispin.
Oh yeah, yes Alan. Dito sa US, importanteng marunong kang mag-drive. Kaya naman napilitan si Marilu na mag-aral ng driving. It took her almost 2 years to have a driver's license. So you also need to know and observe the traffic rules and regulations dahil mahal ang traffic violation ticket. Tungkol naman sa gawaing bahay, dahil walang maid dito, kaya tulong-tulong kaming pamilya mag-anak sa mga gawaing bahay. Dahil wala naman akong masyadong kaalaman sa computer, kinailangan ko pang mag-aral dito sa US. My first job was an accountant in a property management corporation. At sa awa naman ng Diyos, sipag at tiyaga, I was trusted by the owner of the company and to manage the company's operations and authorized me to sign on the company's checks regardless of amount. Kaya naman aside from my wife, I was able to help our two kababayan to be employed by the company. Importante sa lahat ay ang ating kalusugan. Kinakailangan na you are in good health dahil very expensive ang medical insurance premium. Kapag nakapagtrabaho ka na, it is usually one of the benefits that is being offered by the employer. Thank you.
Okay. Salamat.
Thank you, Christine.
Yeah. Salamat for that. How about thank you, Crispin. No? How about si Marilu? Ano po yung saan po kayo nag-adjust in the US?
Ako sa akin, number one, weather. Nung dumating kami dito, that was summer, supposed to be mainit para sa mga ibang taga dito. Pero sa akin talagang napakalamig. Kahit na nakadalawang sweater ako, masyadong malamig pa rin. Pangalawa, yung loneliness. Kasi para bang na-miss mo yung mga family mo, yung friends mo, yung community mo sa church mo. At last, yung bang ang hirap maghanap ng trabaho nung time na yon. Plus yung communications and driving talaga. Yun.
Nasabi nga po ni Sir Ernie, napilitan kayo mag-aral mag-drive.
Yes. Takot ako eh.
Yes.
Urong sulong.
Yes. And we know that driving is a necessity in the US, no? Alam naman natin.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Now, how about let's ask Nell. Nell, what is the most significant change that you had to adopt during your first year in your migration to the US?
Yes, Alan, similar, no? Yung getting around the city. So, pag bago dito, syempre, wala pang car. So, yung pag-commute is entirely different, no, from the Philippines. Sa Philippines, nagkalat na sa EDSA, ang daming public transportation. Here, very systematic, very structured. So, paplanuhin mo kung paano, bago ka lumabas, alamin mo ang weather, tapos alamin mo ang schedule ng mga buses, ng trains, saan ang mga stations na nakamalapit sa tinutuluyan mo. So, everything is planned. You learn to really schedule properly, no? In the right outfit, kung malamig. Tapos natutunan ko, una, hindi ko alam na, kaya pala sila hindi giniginaw. Layers of clothing yung suot nila. So, I will just wear my top, and then I will wear a jacket. Tapos, bakit giniginaw din ako? So, I found out that they layer. So, merong thermal undergarment kung gusto mo, lalo sa San Francisco. Depende sa pupuntahan mong lugar. Pero, most places in the US, especially during fall and winter and spring, talagang malamig, lalo na sa gabi. So, yun yung similar na adjustment ko sa kanila. And then, very fast-paced kasi parang lahat nagmamadali. I mean, everything is on schedule. You can just show up on somebody's house and knock on the door. You have to call first, and then driving, lahat mabilis. You have to, yun yung adjustment ko. And eventually nakapag-adjust din. And then, of course, yung communication, the American way, very sa pleasantries, no? Yung how are you, and you have to look in the eyes, you have, even strangers sometimes would talk to you. Here in California, at least, no, especially also in the Midwest, kasi madalas din ako magpunta sa Midwest, yung mga tipong Colorado, Nebraska, Ohio. People just, strangers just talk to you, and they mean well most of the time, and you just have to get used to exchanging pleasantries. So yun.
Yeah. So, maraming adjustment, ano? Like halimbawa, sa driving, nabanggit kanina ni Mr. Ernie, yung driving, no? Sometimes, di po ba, you had to unlearn what you learned from the Philippines in driving.
Correct. Correct. Right. Yung full stop, talagang dapat full stop.
Yes. In the Philippines, kasi stoplight, ibang interpretation ng Pinoy. So, for example, for green is go, and yellow is go faster, and then red is full stop. But in the US, if that's a yellow light, then you have to slow down.
Right. Right.
Okay. Yeah. So, follow-up question for Nell. Kanina binanggit ni Miss Mary Jane yung kanyang quotable quotes, and sabi niya, when in Rome, do what the Romans do. So let us apply it in the States. And do you think that when in America, do as the Americans do is always a good advice? And have you ever been in the situation where you felt that you had to do as the Americans do?
Oh, yes. Yeah. To large extent, talagang ganun magbe-blend tayo. And you will be surprised, yung mga migrate Magugulat ka na lang after siguro a few months after, especially if you're surrounded by ano talaga English speaking people, magugulat ka na lang nakuha mo na pala yung accent, nagsasalita na rin ng kagaya ng mga residents here, no? So, and I actually found it very very good na kapag na-introduce ako sa culture na to, because I feel that I grew personally, no, as a person, kasi ang ganda ng yung diversity, living with a very diverse environment is really very good, no, and yung level of civility, yung respect sa iba-ibang lahi is really observed, especially nung bagong dating ako dito. So yeah, I think do as Americans do, yung even yung discipline sa road na lang ang laking tulong talaga, no, kasi defensive driving talaga is safe, and wala kang pilitan kang mag follow kasi ikaw ang parang you will stand out kung if you're not following the rules. So courtesy is a norm, so it's part of life here.
Thank you, Nel, no? So, tama, no? Do what the Americans do. Kasi we're in the third stage, by the way, no? We're in the adaptation stage. Kaya we need to adapt in our home country.
Yeah. Thank you, Mel, for that information, no? So, let's go to the next, siguro, most talked about, pero hindi talaga masyadong pinag-uusapan, especially sa ating culture as Filipinos. I'll ask this question to Marilu. Marilu, do you agree that handling finances for newly arrived migrant family is likened to being a newly wedded couple? So let's talk about finances po.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. No, I don't. Kasi sa couple, walang ang involved. Pagka family, is more than 2, minsan 3 o 4 pa. Actually, nahirapan kami dito mag-manage ng finance namin. May konti man kaming pera, pero it's not enough para kapag apartment. Malaking blessing na lang nung napatira kami sa kapatid ni Crispin. Doon, nagsishare kami ng food, although hindi kami obligado. No, I sometimes help in cooking. Since wala akong local experience dito, so it's hard to find a job. What I did, I went to EDD, yung Employment Development Department. Kasi sometimes sila may mga listing na mga opening. So I found one. So nakapag-apply ako, sabi as cashier. I was given around mga a part-time job, 3 to 4 hours. Kaya lang, sa gabi ang assignment. So okay lang ako, sabi kong ganon. Ngayon, on my day 1 sa job ko, happy ako. Pagpasok ko, nagulat ako, sabi ko, bakit walang kalaman-laman ito? Building lang. Yung pala, all of us, we have to, ano ba yun, yung iayusin yung build pagka-assemble. Na-assign ako mag-assemble ng display area na napakabigat. Hindi ko hirap ako magbuhat. First time ko lang yung nagawa sa buong buhay ko. So, ang nangyari, next day, absent ako kasi hindi ko makaya. Ang sakit ng katawan ko eh. Pero ito, umabot ako ng mga 3 months eh. Tapos layoff ka. Kaya it's really hard for us yung mag-save. Nagpapa-job ako sa iba-ibang, tumatalon ako sa iba-ibang job para lang maka-cope up kami. Kaya na lang, nakatulong sa akin yung pag-aaral ko dyan ng cooking and baking. Nakagawa ako ng mga like sa empanada, skinless longganisa. Si Crispin ang bahala sa mga ingredients ko, siya nag-aasikaso. Yun namang in-laws ko, siya ang nag-aalok sa mga friends ko. Nakatira lang kami ng apartment nung si Crispin nakapag-work na.
I see. So, it's really important, Marilu, na you have skills na you can use pagdating dyan. Like what you said, you were into baking. So, nagbenta po kayo ng empanada, and you also made skinless longganisa.
Yes.
No?
Oo.
That's really helpful. So after all of these years, Marilu and Crispine, what were your strategies when it comes to saving and budgeting para maging financially stable kayo?
Okay. Number one is you have to save at least 10% or 20% ng salary mo. You need to
Mhm.
force yourself para at least meron kang, may savings ka. Second, yung
Mhm.
credit cards. Don't overspend your credit cards kasi mahirap magbayad. Ang pinakamoto ko
Correct.
dito is buy what is needed, not what you want. Kasi kung what you want, will end up maraming utang kasi gusto mo pero hindi mo naman nagagamit.
Mhm.
And then, kinakailangan naging contented ka sa buhay mo, wag kang mainggit. Kasi lahat ng bagay na nakita mo, makukuha mo rin yan pagtagal ng stay mo rito.
Sooner or later,
Then,
yes.
then you need to learn how to budget, lalo na yung mga fixed income, fixed expenses, like yung rent, yung utilities mo, autos, and health insurances, yung loans mo, cellphone. Ang cellphone, meron naman dito na nabibiling prepaid. It depends kung ano yung needed mo. You can search on the internet. Like kung meron sa Best Buy, AT&T, Verizon. They offer sometimes free phone. Yun nga lang with contract. And then yung other expenses mo, yung food, na kailangan mo ka rin masyadong maano sa food mo, extravagant. Yung tama lang. Kasi later on, pagka mayroon ka na enough, saka mo nakainin yung gusto mong kainin. And also like yung coupons, makapag-ipon ka ng mga coupons kasi it helps a lot. Sa coupons, makakaano ka pa rin sa tingin ka pa rin sa internet. You can search like yung mga supermarket.com, sa mga yung grocerysmarts.com, Groupons, makikita mo na lahat doon. Tapos makakapag-check ka pa alin ang mas murang grocery store.
Mm-mm.
Oo, yeah. So, that's it. That's it.
Sige po. So yung, correct me if I'm wrong, Marilu, for you, so number one priority talaga is to save and budget para maging financially stable. And do
Yes.
everything para makatipid. Like, instead of
Mhm.
eating out, siguro you can cook at home, prepare
Mhm.
your food at home, and mag-avail ng mga coupons. Tama po ba?
Oo.
And I also love what you said, no, na buy what you need and not what you want, and be contented and hindi mainggit. So you really have to learn how to budget your finances, especially yung fixed expenses niyo po. Ano po?
Mm.
So ako, natutunan ko kay Marilu is the budgeting na you had to remove 10 or 20% of your salary, no, as savings.
Yes.
Malaking bagay po yun. No?
Yes.
Okay.
Ginagawa mo
So,
ba yan, Alan?
yes. Sometimes. Okay. So, let's get back to Nell, no? Okay, thank you, no? So, iba naman muna topic natin aside from the finances, no? So, let's get back to Nell. Nell, I think you've been married to an American citizen, no? And
Yes.
normally, they are not familiar with Filipino culture, no? For example, handling money, like what Marilu discussed a while ago, finances, no? Kasi for us Filipino, there is no debate who should handle the finances because generally, Filipino culture, men work and women handle the finances or the wives, right? So I would like to know if this became an issue between you and Terry during your early years of your married life in the US, and how did you discuss about this in your relationship? Nell?
Yes. So, no, hindi naging issue luckily, no. Ang joke ko nga sa husband ko what's mine is mine, what's yours is mine. So, that's a joke, no. So, luckily, syempre like in the Philippines, galing din sa iba-ibang background ang mga nag-aasawa. No? So ang husband ko is from the Midwest, which is Nebraska, na very conservative ang kanilang ano rin, ang family ano nila practice, no. So ang mama niya ay also handles the finances, no. Siya ang may hawak ng checkbook, siya ang nag-i-issue ng siya ang babayad ng mga bills, no. In our case, before kami nagpakasal, I was actually surprised na we sat down, pinakita niya sa akin ang finances niya, and we discussed also, we open everything, we had an open discussion ng ano ang situation namin financially, no? So, and I wasn't expecting that. Kasi naririnig ko nga sa mga kaibigan ko, pag nag-asawa ka ng puti, kanya-kanyang pera yan, kanya-kanyang yan, ito, ikaw magbabayad ng ganito, ako magbabayad ng ganito, hindi daw nagkakaalaman kung ano talaga ang income. So, luckily naman, we discussed everything, and so, para alam din natin kung ano yung masang expectations, no? Ano yung ma-afford ninyo, ano yung pwedeng mabili within the year, within the next year, you can plan your financial your situation, no. So in that way, was hindi naging issue, Alan. So to answer the question.
Yes. So natawa naman ako dun sa we work as a team. Teamwork
Yes.
talaga, no?
Right.
Kasi
Right.
the CFO, by the way, no, to let you know, we are conducting the guidance and counseling program for Filipino spouses and partners of foreign national. Meron kami niyan, guidance counseling, no? So dumadaan sila sa CFO to attend the guidance and counseling yung mga Filipina na nag-asawa ng mga foreigner. So normally dinidiscuss din namin yan kasi yung issue madalas na normally kasi we Filipino, we tend to, when we are in abroad or working man yan or permanent residency, we send money to our relatives, di ba? So hindi ba naging issue yan?
Yeah. Basta ang masasuggest ko, be very open with your situation. So alam nung ano pa lang, we were courtship period pa lang kami. I told him na nagpapadala ako, nagsusupport ako sa mother ko noon. Every payday, kailangan, ano talaga, meron ako naka-allocate talaga na ipapadala sa Philippines. Tapos, and he accepted that, and in fact, may ano pa nga, mabait ang husband ko actually, mag-brag ko lang na siya pa mismo, nagpadala pa siya sa mother ko, nagpa-direct deposit siya nung time na yun. But my mom is here now with us. So, dito na siya sa amin nakatira ngayon. So, yeah. Hopefully, yung mga mag-aasawa ng hindi Filipinos, keep the line of communication open. Yun lang, masanay sa straight talk. Yes is yes, no is no. Pagka sinabi mong no, hindi ibig sabihin nun maybe. They will take it really as a no. So, ganun. Kailangan straight talk talaga.
Okay. So, thank you, Nel, no?
Mm-mm.
Thank you
din.
Thank you for your sharing. Natawa talaga ako dun sa what is yours, what is mine is mine, and what is yours is mine.
Yes. Yeah, mabuti nang i-joke mo na para baka lang lumusot, 'di ba?
Nakakatuwa naman. So, actually we have FB greetings and comments. I'll read some.
Mm-hmm.
And some questions also, no?
Says George Capistrano is watching.
Yeah, that's my uncle.
Yeah.
Okay. So, there's a question from Hannah John. Tanong po sa mga guests, mag-migrate po ako ng Amerika soon. Paano po makakatipid sa Amerika? May tips po kayo? So, I think Crispin can share paano ba makakatipid sa Amerika? You've stayed there for 28 years. Ano yung mga ano ninyo, Crispin, para makatipid?
Yeah, okay, Celine. Car is necessity here in US. Para makatipid, I bought a used car directly to the owner. Dahil more cheaper instead of buying directly to the from the car dealers. Yung car na nabili ko ay $600 lang at kung bibilin mo yun sa car dealer ay mas mataas ang price niya. So, kailangan lang meron kang auto mechanic na kasama para matulungan ka sa pagbili ng used car. Makakatipid ka rin sa if you are working already, carpooling is highly recommended. Malaking tipid sa gas at sa toll fee. Gaya ko, we are 5 in the carpool. Kaya isang beses lang ang bawat isa sa amin mag-drive every week. Ngayon, sa pagbili naman in buying appliances, electronics, furniture, at iba pa, you have to wait for the big discount sales usually offered by the stores during public holidays. Dahil ang repair of appliances and electronics is very expensive, kaya it is preferably to buy a new one. Usually, merong warranty instead of the used one. Mostly, walang warranty. So, isa pa rin makapag-save ka yung paggamit ng coupons na nabanggit ni Marily. You can save through coupons. Coupons entitle ang holder for a discount or a particular food or services. Coupons are available in the website, inside the supermarkets, in magazines, newspapers, and they are being sent to you by mail. Other stores offer reward coupons based on your accumulated purchases. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Thank you, Crispin, for sharing with us your Tipid Tips 101.
Yeah.
So, ayun po, no?
So I think our
Thank
audience
you.
will benefit from this tipid
Benefit,
tips
yes.
by Erdi. Yeah, and by Crispin.
And
sorry.
sana
So,
gagawin din talaga.
yes, we have to do it in the US. And then we don't have enough time. So to wrap it up, no, for this segment, una, papasalamat kami. Thank you for sharing with us your experience, and we hope to see you soon in our future webinars, no. But before we let you go, guys, for your final statement, please describe your migration journey to the US in one word and try to explain it to us. Let's start with Crispin and Marilu.
Okay, our migration journey here in the US, I can describe it in one word as fate. So, buong pamilya kaming nag-migrate dito sa US. Our 2 kids were only ages 10 and 15. My sister offered us to stay with them. So after 9 months, with my sister, we moved to my brother's house. We built 3 small rooms in my brother's garage for us. Nakapag-apply ako ng work after 18 months. Dahil akong nagda-drive sa aming mga anak at kay Marilu sa kanyang trabaho. But with the grace of God, in 1 week, I was hired as an accountant in a property management corporation. Ito rin ang employer na tumulong sa amin upang mabili namin ang bahay na ito. Kaya hindi kami pinabayaan ni Lord. Matagal man akong hindi nakapagtrabaho, malaking sorpresa ang ibinigay niya sa aming pamilya hanggang sa ngayon. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
How about,
you, Christine.
yeah, thank you, Crispin. How about si Marilu?
Marilu?
Any
Yeah.
addition?
Okay. In addition to what Chris said, submit your plan to God, even to the smallest thing, and always ask His blessings and always thank God. Kahit na anong hirap yung pinagdadaanan mo, kapit ka lang kay Lord, malalakpasan mo lahat yun. Nung few years stay lang namin dito, sinabi ko kay Lord, how I wish magkabahay kami nung ika-fifth year namin. Dumating yung fifth year, pero wala pa rin. Sabi ko, hindi pa rin kami makapag-ipon ng pang down payment, closing cost, processing fee. Pero ang feeling ko, magkakaroon kami. Yun nga lang, hindi ko alam paano. Hanggang isang araw, sabi ko kay Crispin, halika, ikot-ikot lang tayo. Gusto ko lang tumingin ng bahay para malaman ko lang magkano ang cost. Nakita ko kaagad itong bahay na ito. Sabi ko sa sarili ko, gusto ko yung bahay na yon. Tapos after 2 months, sabi ko, halika, ikot tayo. Para bang hinihila ako dito sa bahay na ito eh. Nung pumunta kami ulit dito, it's up for sale. So sabi ko, wow. Sabi ko, pero paano na naman to? It's good naman yung aming employer, nalaman na nagre-rent lang kami ng apartment. Siya ngayon ang nakatulong sa amin para makuha namin ito. I know it's God's answer for our prayers. And we have been living here for 23 years. Pinupuri namin at pinasasalamatan ng Panginoon sa kanyang pagmamahal sa aming pamilya. Yun.
Yeah.
Yun lang.
So, 23 years,
Yeah.
no? Ang galing, ano?
So that
Yeah, ang
that's
galing
why
ng, oh.
I know.
So yun ang kanilang word na napili is faith. Yan. Now let's ask Nell. Ano naman po yung how to describe your migration journey in the US in one word?
Yeah. I agree. Ang ganda ng sinabi nila, Mr. Crispin, tsaka ni Miss Mary Lou, no? Totoo talaga yon. Kasi pag lilipat ka ng ibang lugar, totally, no? It's a different world. So, kailangan mo ng kakapitan talaga. Maraming times na malulungkot ka, madadown ka. So, it's really your faith. So, sa akin, I will describe my journey. Talagang journey talaga siya. 19 years, almost 20 years journey na here sa US. It's a gift, no? Kasi it's a divine providence. Maraming nangyari, hindi ko naman inask, hindi ko deserve. Things fell in place. Lahat naman kami halos ditong immigrants nag-umpisa talaga from nothing or from the very from scratch. So pero with the help of God and pagsisikap nakaraos at napagtagumpayan na maraming nalagpasan. So ang message ko naman sa mga magmamigrate, so take advantage, take the opportunity of starting anew, take it as a blank page in your life, a blank canvas na you will write your own story and have plan A, plan B, plan C. Kung hindi mag-work yung plan A, yung plan B naman. And maraming support dito sa Amerika. Ang daming pag nagutom dito, parang unthinkable or kasi parang you're set up for success. You're set up to have a better life supposedly, no? So but be confident, no? Kung dati ka dito, parang ibang accent mo, wag kang mahihiya kasi yan yung yan yung ethnicity mo. Hindi naman pinagtatawa dito yan sa amin sa California, hindi ka tawa-tawa na may accent. Hindi embarrassment ang may accent. You have to be proud of your origin, no? Yung pinanggalingan. And also ang importante lang, you can be understood. So, aralin yung mga words na iba ang pronunciation sa Pilipinas, iba rin dito. So, magandang ano yun, I mean, saka, ngayon marami ng online shows you can adapt, you can learn to talk the way yung sinasabi ng conversational English, no? Conversational English, eventually makukuha mo rin naman yun para you will feel talaga na you have blended in, no? So I wish you know, luck, and I am really happy na may ganitong service, Alan and Celine. You're doing really great. Napakagandang ng ginagawa nyo. Salamat sa opportunity na to.
Okay, thank you, Nell.
Thank you
So
also.
it's really a gift, no, for Nell, yung kanyang migration sa US. Now, to sum up our webinar, no, I just remembered what Benjamin Franklin once said, no, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. So immigrating to the US is not easy as you might think. Tama po ba? Hindi biro ang mag-ibang bansa. And planning ahead and preparation will mostly result to a successful integration to the host country. Like Miss Leah Ocampo said earlier, we need to ask ourselves these questions. Am I ready? Am I prepared for the work and sacrifice involved in immigrating to the United States? Setting goals and expectation also plays an important role for a successful migration. From the start of the webinar, Attorney Chris Lapinig gave us an update on how America is doing. This gave our Filipino migrants a picture of the environment they will be expecting once they arrive in the US. Kaya mahalaga na bago tayo mangibang bansa, alamin, suriin at pag-aralan natin ang ating bansang pupuntahan. We thank our guest speakers for sharing their wonderful real-life experiences to help guide our kababayan to their migration journey to the US. We hope that whatever learnings you got from today's webinar, use it to achieve your migration goal. Dito sa Commission on Filipinos Overseas, hangad namin ng inyong tagumpay sa buhay at maayos na paglalakbay sa Amerika.
Ayan. Thank you, Alan, for the recap. So we at Commission on Filipinos Overseas would like to give our sincerest gratitude to our resource speakers for sharing with us their expertise, experience, and most especially their time. Maraming salamat, Attorney Christopher M. Lapinig, for your in-depth updates on the current state of affairs in America. Thank you, Leah Ocampo, Ernie Del Monte, and Sally Del Monte, our speakers for Buhay Pinoy sa Amerika, Part 1 Honeymoon Stage. Thank you also, Mary Grace Castro and Mary Jane Rosales, for shedding light about the adjustment stage in America. And thank you, Nell Capistrano Messersmith, Crispin Nunez, and Marilu Nunez for imparting your knowledge and practical tips in the adaptation stage. Again, we're grateful of you all for doing this interview despite your hectic schedules. And a big thank you for all of you who are watching us via Facebook Live. Thank you to all of our viewers. And I'll be announcing the winners. So congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. Yes, congratulations
for
our
Delina
winners.
Lawson, Malu Juday, and Fran Santiago. You've just won one free ebook of Leah Ocampo's
Courtesy of Leah Ocampo.
What Matters Most. Okay,
Congratulations.
Congratulations. And as a parting gift to all of you who joined us in today's PDOS webinar, and in the spirit of Christmas, let's watch Mr. Anthony Maligaya, a local artist from Palawan, with his original composition, Pasko Na sa Pilipinas. So sit back, relax, and let us all be serenaded.
langit. Tila meron na namang ibig sabihin sa'yo at sa akin. Pagbibigayan, pagpatawaran, pagmamahalan at pagkakaibigan. Ito ang diwa ng Pasko sa atin, ating tupdin. Nagsabit ang parol sa bawat bintana, kutitap ng mga ilaw ay sadyang kay ganda. Halina't magsaya, umawit ang may galak. Tayo na, tayo na. Pasko na sa Pilipinas, Pasko na ng Pilipino. Halina't salubungin natin ang pagsilang ng ninyo. Ito ang dakilang araw na ating pinagkamimit-hit. Magsaya at ipagdiwang, isigaw sa mundo, Pasko na naman Pilipino. Pag-ibigayan at pagkatawaran, pagmamahalan at pagkakaibigan. Ito ang diwa ng Pasko sa atin, ating tupdin. Nagsabit ang parol sa bawat bintana, kutitap ng mga dilaw ay sadyang kay ganda. Halina't magsaya, umawit ng may galak. Tayo na, tayo na. Pasko na sa Pilipinas, Pasko na ng Pilipino. Halina't salubungin natin ang pagsilang ng ninyo. Ito ang dakilang araw na ating pinagkamimit-hit. Magsaya at ipagdiwang, isigaw sa mundo, Pasko na naman Pilipino. Pasko na sa Pilipinas, Pasko na ng Pilipino. Halina't salubungin natin ang pagsilang ng ninyo. Ito ang dakilang araw na ating pinagkamimit-hit. Magsaya at ipagdiwang, isigaw sa mundo, isigaw sa mundo, isigaw sa mundo, Pasko na naman Pilipino.
Okay.
Wow.
Before we end our what a wonderful performance. But before we end our show, we would like just to read a few messages from our FB page live viewers. One came from Ria Luz, sabi dito, Arizona is a good place to stay for those thinking of moving to America. Wow. And from Doreen Sleep, SLP, good morning po. Mabuhay po kayong lahat. I'm watching from Cebu City. And from Miss Dang Avens, good morning CFO, good morning America, buhay Pinoy, she said. No? And then Real Tiffany Lopo, sabi dito, natuwa ako sa kantahan. Thank you all po, God bless. And one more, JRLHO Abellano Ardenia, sabi dito, thank you very much ma'am for addressing my question. Stay safe. And lastly, from Karen Garcia Santos, sabi dito, thank you Ma'am Jane and Grace for the powerful and encouraging message. And God bless. So, yan po yung mga messages. Yes, from our
another viewers. Another is from Karen Garcia Santos. Yes, thank you Sir Crispin, Ma'am Marilu, and Ma'am Nel. Have faith in God first po talaga. God bless po. God bless you din po, Miss Karen.
Okay. So are there any more? I think that's about it. So until the next episode of our PIDOS webinar, please support also our upcoming Ugnayan for Filipinos in Los Angeles and in South Korea and Hawaii, as flashed on the screen. We will be posting details of our next online PDOS webinar episode in our CFO Facebook page. So please like our page and updates of our activity. Again, this is your host, Alan,
And I'm Celine.
signing off.
Signing off.
Bye-bye.